Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
We are talking to a man who I haven't spoken to. I've only texted him backwards and forwards, and I reckon he's a little bit excited. His name used to be Sean Simpson. He has now officially been dubbed Fosus, the father of Socks Up Simpson. Good morning, Fosus.
Oh, what an introduction, gents. Thank you so much for having me on board.
I wouldn't miss it for the world, mate. It is obviously a moment that is of great excitement to you as a Geelong supporter, I would think. But forget that. The fact that you've got a bloke running around in your old jumper who's got the same initials and surname as you, it's got to be something pretty exciting, I would have thought.
Oh, I just couldn't read about it, seriously. You know, at the start of the year, I was just hoping Sam might have got a few games, which would have been awesome. But just to think that he's in a grand final on the last game of the season, we can't say September, but the last game of the season, is just amazing. So I'm so proud of Sam. He's done such a good job. He's worked really hard. He had a little injury there a few weeks ago, and he's fought really hard to get back into the team. So, no, I'm just really proud of what he's been able to achieve. And, the job's not done yet, Neil. We need one more, mate.
Yeah, well, the job was done as far as I was concerned. But that's another story for another time. We caught up with Sam about 13 months ago at the VFL Best and Fairest, and he was the only bloke who turned up in a suit. Everyone else turned up looking like they'd been dragged backwards through a yak. He looked the part, and I reckon if I had said to him, what are the odds of the next time we are talking about you on the media, it will be as part of a grand final AFL team, what do you reckon he would have given me as odds on that?
Oh, they'd be pretty lengthy, I'd imagine. But the one thing about Sam, he's always had this belief in his own ability. You know, he never gets too overawed by the occasion. I remember once he played against Luke Hodge in his 300th game, Luke's 300th game, and I just said to Sam, wow, how good's that? And he just sort of thought, yeah, it's another game, you know. So he's pretty unflappable in that way, but which is probably a good thing going into a grand final.
It is quite ironic, Sean, that I'm actually sitting in a chair in a position talking in front of a microphone where Sam sat all those years ago, and I can't even remember what date he was drafted, but we knew then that he was the only player that was confirmed as a draftee. Geelong had selected him as a father-son. It wasn't challenged. And he knew he was going to be playing for the Cats before anyone else that year knew it in the draft. He was about 17 kilos then. And I'm looking and think, how on earth are you going to play football at that level? But my goodness gracious me, it's been one of those really good stories of patience, clearly hard work, and following instruction to the letter from all the great people at the Geelong Footy Club. So that adds to it a bit, taking out our relationship with you to make it all happen in the first place.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. And it probably just the Geelong system has stood the test of time. You know, they've really developed well within, you know, the junior kids coming through the system. I think in today's local paper in the Addy, there's all these Falcons kids playing in a grand final tonight. So, yeah, the system has really held up really well. And, Sam was quite skinny when he was drafted, and Stephen Wells said, look, if we rookie him, that'll give him the best opportunity to have a lengthy career in the system, because if he's on the main list, after 2 years he hasn't played a senior game, well then, you know, he'll be under a bit of pressure to hold his spot. So yeah, the way they've done it has been really good, and I've just been really wrapped with the club and the way they've handled Sam.
I caught a part of Chris Scott's press conference. I suspect it was after last week's game, and he actually called out the issue relating to Sam Simpson, who is he, you know, and the fact that he effectively bumped Tom Atkins out of the side in terms of that. And Scotty at the time said, no, people outside of the club would scratch their heads and wonder why we did that. But inside, we know how hard he's worked. We know what he brings to the table. And when your coach is saying that sort of stuff in a press conference, that's got to be a massive vote of confidence for him too.
Oh, most definitely. No, it's really good. And just on that Tommy Atkins thing, there was a little story that Sam was telling me that the day Tom got the news that he was making way for Sam, he dropped Sam off to get a haircut that day. I mean, if that was me, I'd be crashing into signposts and trees and everything on the way. I don't think I could show that sort of sportsmanship, Neil, but no, pretty good indication of how strong the group is and the way they've all hubbed together. I think they're all nice knit group, and I think for the young blokes, they've actually enjoyed the experience. Like you could imagine, Rob, you know, you're going away and you're normally in a normal system, you're training and that with, you know, the Dangerfields and Selwoods and Harry Taylors of the world, but at night they go home and you sort of don't see what they do, whereas if you're in a hub 24/7, you see these little things that they do after training and outside of training at night, getting up and going and having an ice bath and doing things just that, so I think the whole experience of hubbing for a young guy like Sam has probably brought his footy to a new level just by spending more time with these guys.
Now, Fosus, I want you to wind the clock back to 1992. You played in the grand final, not a successful one, sadly, but we had David Parkett on this morning talking about the coaching system, the number of coaches, the amount of instruction, the dietary stuff, all of that off the ground as well. For you back in the preparation, Saturday morning, grand final day 1992, you're coached by Malcolm Blight. What was the off-ground preparation for you relating solely to the football, not you looking after yourself, but solely to football and your instruction compared to what Sam will be going through?
Yeah, it'd be a different build-up, I'd imagine. We actually, Malcolm Blight used to like training the night before a game, and it actually worked out okay because we had a grand final parade on the Friday and all come back on the bus, and then we had a training session, and it was just a good way. And there was quite a few people at the ground, after work it was back then. It would have been 5 o'clock or something like that. So, yeah, people lobbed in after work with their fish and chips wafting over the fence. So, no, it was a really good atmosphere, but it was just a good way of, running out some nerves, and then you can, shower up, get a massage or whatever you needed, and go home and sort of rest up for the game. So I found it a really different build-up to probably what they do these days. I believe Geelong have I'm tongue-tied here at the moment, stuck to the same process. They've been training at night, 7:30 at night or 6:30 at night their time, to simulate the exact same time that they're going to play the grand final. So they've been doing that the last 3 weeks. Their main training session has been on a Wednesday night, then they have the Thursday off, and then on a Friday they have a nice little captain's run where they just, kick and a catch and a bit of a giggle and make it pretty light-hearted. So they've stuck to that same thing. I'm getting tripped up on that one. What's going on?
Tell us a bit about what pre-game in the rooms in the last hour before the game, how much interaction you'd have had with a coach, advisor, teammate about instructions that you personally need to carry out on the ground compared to what Sam would be doing with Matthew Knights, Chris Scott and probably a couple of others.
Yeah, it'd be totally different again. We'd be getting all of our instruction, a lot of late instruction back then. That's the way it was done. But, for a coach these days, their work is done during the week. They spend so much time with the playing group and mainly the line coaches. Like, I think Sam's line coaches, Corey Enright. So Corey would have had a lot of one-on-one time with Sam this week going through different scenarios and different situations via, watching video or actually doing it as a practical form out on the ground. So, most of the coaching for the current playing group would have been done through the week, and I'd imagine on match day there certainly wouldn't be too much, and there's probably not too much hoo-ha like in our day. There was a lot of, stuff to get you motivated, a lot of noise, whereas it'd be probably a lot more measured nowadays. And as I said, most of the structural stuff has been done already, so it'd be just a matter of stretching well, warming up well, getting into a good frame of mind, and ready for band.
You're a theme from Rocky Man, weren't you?
I loved it. Yeah, I needed a bit of something like that. I had the headset on and, a bit of music for sure. Maybe a bit of Neil Diamond or something like that in the background.
A little bit of Sweet Caroline as you come down the race.
Hey, mate, Sweet Caroline.
One I'd be interested in knowing is 1992, you go back to 1992 and you would have run out on the ground for a 3 o'clock start or a 2:30 start, something like that. So getting up in the morning in either Ballarat or Geelong, depending upon where you were living at the time, and heading to the ground, you get there at whatever time. How much harder is it going to be for the players to have to wait an extra 3.5 hours to fill in effectively on that day? It must drive them nuts.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it just depends how you're brought up. I think back in those days there was a reserves game, so there's probably a reserves game being played beforehand. So that was good just to see an actual game as well. You could sort of just settle into watching a little bit of footy and see the bumps and just it settles you down a little bit, whereas now the boys have a totally different warm-up. They get there, as you say, 3 hours beforehand. They'd be out there and do a pre-warm-up in a different outfit. Then they go in and get changed into their regular outfit. And, so it's totally different to our day. I'd actually like it how they do it the modern time because we really didn't get that opportunity. We'd run out onto the ground, and that was pretty much the first time you'd hit the ground in your boots and everything. And so I would really rather do it these days. But anyway, that's just my personal choice.
Because I think Lachie Neale, was saying the other night that when he gets to a ground, he goes out and lays in the middle of the ground and just stares at the sky.
Like Matthew Hayden used to do before. Yeah. Go and
He
look
has
for-
a sleep, doesn't he, Neil? Is that what he
Yeah,
does?
well, he's got whatever he's doing. He ought to do it again because he's doing it all right.
He's doing it well. So, what's the day hold for you? Have you got some of your old grand final teammates that you're sharing the day with?
I'm not actually. I'm going to keep it pretty low key. We're a little bit superstitious. My sister Cherie, she's a worry, Rob. She's got us the last 2 weeks. We've all been up here in Ballarat with Mum, watching it together, and so apparently today, same. We're all in the same clothes, all in the same seats. Nothing's changing. She's very superstitious, my sister.
Hope you've changed them during the week, mate. Otherwise, they'd be a bit on the bugle by now.
They are a little bit.
So, how many goals do they win by?
Oh, mate, I'd be like Lou Richards. I'd be the kiss of death. Can I not answer that question,
Sure,
please?
you can. That's right.
Then I just hope that they get over the line. And I really just think, they're going to be so evenly matched. There's so many good matchups, and it starts in the ruckers, and I just think, Nankervis and Stanley, wow, which way is that going to go? It's going to start there. I think Reece Stanley has been the barometer. I really believe that his form the last couple of weeks is
Yeah, I'm liking it. He was a key thing in pre-season. I remember all he has to do is just not get beaten, and I don't think anyone's beaten him this year. He might not have clearly won his position, but he hasn't been beaten, and I think that's a very vital difference to Geelong in the finals with Ruckman over the last, well, certainly right through Chris Scott's career. With the retirement of Brad Ottens, the Ruckman has been a different world, but he's been very, very good this year.
Now, Rob, I know you're a Geelong man, but Mr. Butler, you're a neutral man. Who do you think will win, my friend?
I think the Cats will win it. And as I said going into the finals, the only team that worried me as a Brisbane supporter was Geelong. Richmond didn't worry me in the slightest, and we would have beaten them today had we got over Geelong last week. There you go. That's my statement of the day. We wish you well. The town we live in down here, I don't want to be if they lose. It's going to be a dreary old time, but at the same time, if they win, it'd be interesting to see how groups of 10 go, standing in groups holding hands. We're going to get going, mate. We've got the music coming up in the background. Thanks for joining us. All the very best, and hopefully you become known as Fosus Smut or something, because Sam wins the Norm Smith medal as well.
I'd be very happy with that. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. There he
Thanks,
is.
Fosus. All the best.
Bye, guys.